Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive's Employee of the Month, 2 months in a row. Leave a message at the... Hi, Jamie. It's me, Jamie. I just had a new idea for our song about the Name Your Price tool. So when it's like, tell us what you want to pay, hey, 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 and the trombone goes, blah, 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 and you say, we'll help you find coverage options to fit your budget. Then we just all do finger snaps while a choir goes, savings coming at ya, savings coming at ya. Yes? No? Maybe? Anyway, see your practice tonight. I got new lyrics for the rap break.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
This is No BS Job Search Advice Radio, episode 1350. I'm Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, the host of this show, and welcome. You know, recently on Sundays, I've been releasing long interviews that I did originally for Job Search Radio a few years ago. And today's is with an old friend of mine, Perry Newman, where we talk about resumes, there are Me Too resumes, and how to create ones that differentiate yourself from others. Hope you find this helpful. Hope you give it a great review. And I just want to say, at the time I recorded this, I was doing this over the phone. So the audio quality isn't as perfect as normal. And it's just once a week, and the content is really good, and I hope you find it helpful. Now, with that, let's get going.
Hi, this is Jeff Altman, the Big Game Hunter, and welcome to Job Search Radio on webtalkradio.net. My Job Search Insider tip for this weekend is about the importance of branding. Now, I know when I talk to most people who are thinking of looking for work or who are looking for work, they've heard the concept before and they kind of roll their eyes up in the air and they go, what does branding have to do with me? Let me give you an example of how you are affected by branding. When you go to the store and buy detergent and you pick up that container of whatever it is you're thinking of buying, have you ever looked at the list of chemicals to look at the interaction between these chemicals and those chemicals and say, this is going to make my wash whiter than the other one? No. What you do is you buy a particular brand that you've been told to buy by a wife, husband, partner. You purchase something because you have a coupon, because the price is right, whatever it is. It has nothing to do with the list of chemicals. Well, frankly, in job hunting, there are things that you can be doing to create that same sort of branding for yourself. Now, Perry's going to talk about something. That's my guest for this week, Perry Newman. But I just want you to start thinking about the various things that you can do in social media, with your resume, and a host of other places throughout not just simply your job search now, but throughout your career to help make branding a very intrinsic part of your job search. So, as I said, my guest this week is Perry Newman. Perry is a certified personnel consultant and certified social media consultant, an award-winning resume writer and job search advisor who crafts door-opening resumes and high-impact LinkedIn profiles that showcases someone's experience beautifully. Perry, welcome to Job Search Radio. Great to have you on.
It's great to be on with you, Jeff.
Thank you. Hey, Perry. You know, when I was thinking about this show, I thought I would throw you a curve and ask you, what do you think the number one goal of a resume should be? When people are putting these things together, what should they be trying to do with their resume?
In my opinion, the number one goal in a resume can be summed up in one word: differentiation. And what I've seen is that many people, if you read their resume, what it tells you is, I am one of X number of qualified candidates for this job. Pick me. And so that's not really where you want to be.
You mean you're trying to, the resume should allow someone to stand out from the pack rather than just be another sheep.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, I mean, I look at maybe 50, 100, 200 resumes a week. And in reading them, especially the opening statements, a lot of times the profile statements, whatever the person wants to call it, and what I tell my clients is when they ask me to critique their resume is how many people does this profile work for? How many people can take this profile, cut and paste it, and put it in their resume, and it will be just as accurate as yours? And you would be surprised that about 80% of the people, when I ask them this question, say, gee, I never thought about that. That sounds like everybody else in my job.
It's so true. I see so many summary statements, descriptors at the beginning of a resume that are just filled with fluff and generalities that do nothing to advance the case that the person whose resume I'm reading is anything unusual.
Quite true. Quite true.
So what sort of things might someone do or say in order to create that kind of differentiation in their resume?
Well, I think if you look at it like this, if you're applying, let's say, for a project manager's job, that the experience level, the educational level, the responsibilities that the company wants you to bring to the table, everybody who's a qualified candidate is going to share those, and they're going to be very, very similar. One might have an extra degree, one not. One might have 8 years, one may have 12 years. What really differentiates one person from another, and one thing that they own that no one else can take credit for, is their achievements and accomplishments. Because that's something that you can say, I did this, as opposed to, well, this is what I do. And to me, that's really where the resume and the LinkedIn profile, to a certain extent, really have to go, is towards not saying what I've done, but how well have I accomplished and done what you're looking for me to do in this next upcoming job.
And, I tend to think of there being two types of resumes generally. I know most people think of functional versus chronological, but I tend to think in terms of the one that you may post on a job board versus the one that you're submitting for a specific position. I know it's easier to be that specific when you're posting, when you're to a specific position, but I just don't, sometimes it's hard to do it for a job board. What do you think?
I think that that's quite true. I think that on a job, I'm not a big proponent of job boards to begin with, but I think when you do put it onto a job board, that there is a certain degree of differentiation that you can have. And I think that what it really comes from is understanding that it's not about what you sell. I think most people approach a resume from the perspective of going through their laundry list and saying, well, I've done this and I can do this, and I can sell this, and that, and why they should hire me. But the real answer is to understand what people want to buy. So what I do with my clients is I ask them to look over many, many jobs. And if they look at 10, 15, 20, even 30, 40 jobs that they feel profile who they want to be, what they need to do is say, okay, what are the ubiquitous qualities that companies want? And really keep it focused on that. And then when you're using a resume for human consumption, then you can put yourself in a position, if the resume is written in the right style and format, to kind of customize it for an individual job.
You're so right, Perry. I know I had a guest on a few weeks ago named David Perry, and David was talking about doing something very similar to that, basically identifying a number of positions that someone would be qualified for, tinkering with the resume to pull in those common attributes, and then in the customized resume, pulling in unique qualities of an individual job that a person might be able to perform.
Well, I think
it feels
that's
like what
really
you're
the way
speaking
that things
of.
go.
I apologize. Could you repeat that, please?
No, I think that's the way it goes. What I do is, I guess I have a terminology that I use, is to build a higher profile. And the higher profile says, okay, what is this company looking for? And I think a lot of times what you'll find, and this is, I guess, one of the keys in resume writing is that when you look at, let's say, these 25, 30 jobs, you will notice that the different companies are all looking maybe for 8, 9 skills or experiences, or they're looking for the same thing. But what the key really is to be able to look underneath and kind of read between the lines and figure out where does company A prioritize. Is leadership more important for this company, or is it the hands-on skill that you bring? And then that's where the customization of the resume comes in, to be able to take even those same skills but move things around within the body of the resume so that they become placed in a more important and more prominent position.
Very clever, Perry. I like that one. That isn't something I've been coaching people on for some time now. It's a great reminder. So just to summarize that for the audience, it's the notion that some firms may list the same skills, but they may prioritize the importance of those skills differently. And thus you need to be able to customize your resume to highlight those attributes almost in the same sequence as they seem to be presenting it.
Exactly.
Beautiful, Perry. And there was an analogy that you gave in a recent article that I saw that you'd written that I thought is perfect. Could you talk about that, please?
Well, I think the article that you're referring to is the black dress resume. And the way I came up with that, when I speak to clients, what I find is a lot of times you try and speak to them and get them to understand concepts in something that they can relate to. So I was speaking to a project program at Atlanta out of IBM, and I'd mentioned to her that really what you're looking to do, and she actually told me, she said, gee, that's like like accessorizing your black dress, which is quite true. Like the black dress that you wear for the interview, it's very, very plain and simple. But it has when you put a set of pearls on it, it has one look. You put a silver chain on it, it gives a different look. You put a scarf on it, it gives off a different look. And this is really kind of what like you were mentioning branding in the opening, what you look to do in terms of branding is to say, well, who is the person I want them to see? And this is how you can take these different types of pieces of information, move them around, and you'll come up with the accessories to the resume. It might be looking, and I have to give you credit. I remember you and I spoke a few weeks ago about the box where we put in sometimes skill levels. And you had mentioned to me that might be something that I might want to take and make that the gray box, because people will focus their attention on there immediately. And that's so true, is that you have to understand where the person's eye is going to go to, and that is the most important part of your resume. That's where your accessory is going to be.
And folks, what Perry's speaking about is an instance a few weeks ago we were chatting before doing this show, where he asked me to take a look at a resume and offer some advice. And the resume had a gray box, but it wasn't really positioned in the right place on the resume, nor really call attention to the right content. I happen to have liked that box on this person's resume. On some I don't. So it's not a whimsical, just how my eye flows to content, and I'm sure we're going to touch on that again in a moment. And I just made certain suggestions to Perry that's what he's referencing here. So again, going to that idea of where the eye falls when someone's looking at a resume, I think most people make the mistake of still thinking people read pieces of paper.
No, I don't think people scan them. I mean, I've seen articles that say as little as 6 seconds to 60 seconds, but I think what it is that people, different people will look for certain things. I know as an IT recruiter, you have a certain eye where maybe the first thing you want to know is, hey, does this guy have the tech skills that I want? He could be the greatest guy, but if he doesn't have those tech skills I'm looking for, this is a lost cause for this particular job. Other people are saying, well, does he have the leadership ability? Other people might focus directly on the accomplishments and say, okay, has he been in a position? Other companies may say, well, listen, I need a person coming out of a large company, and so they're going to look at the company they came out of. They're going to say, oh, IBM, okay, yeah, that's the type of company I want my person coming out of. John's grocery stores. Okay, not quite what I'm looking for. So I think that that's really, what people have to look at, is to be able to understand what is going on in the mind of the person who's making the decisions.
And amongst those thoughts, and I know a previous guest of mine, Hal Klegman, mentioned this in the context of interviewing. I know it's also true in the context of reading resumes. I'll use myself as an example. I was out for 2 days at the end of last week. I walked in on Monday morning, having this Thursday and Friday, and I walked into more than 470 resumes. 470 resumes. No one can imagine me sitting there and meticulously reading every detail of each resume. So thus, I need to be able to see quickly what it is in a person's background that they saw might fit this job. And as I've said before, so few people take the time to do that. Instead, they flip the same generic resume out for every job and waste the reader's time. And that's what I've been going through. So far, of the 150 I've gone through, 3, maybe 4 were suitable for anything my clients had. It's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Horrible.
I think that that's exactly the way it goes. But I think that there's another thing people sometimes don't understand, is that scanning a resume, I know when I was recruiting, if something caught my eye and I looked at a stack of 25, 30 resumes and one resume had a style or a format or just physically stood out of the crowd, that would pique my interest, and I would read a little bit more. And if in my first 5-6 seconds I found, oh, wow, this guy has a little bit of what I'm looking for, and if I could find it and it just jumps out at me, I would say, okay, well, let me look a little bit more. Let me look a little bit more. Let me look a little bit deeper. I think as recruiters, we have like our list of 8, 9 points that we're looking for, and I think the key to a resume writer is really being able to understand this and having them jump out at the reader, so that they have their checklist and they can just check these points off quickly. The more you check off, the more it becomes really, I guess, a game for us to say, well, maybe, hey, can this guy get a perfect 10? Let me read on. And sometimes you will spend 60 seconds, maybe even 2 minutes, and read the whole thing because it intrigued you. Because the bottom line is, especially from our perspective as recruiters, these people are money in the bank, so I don't want to let a $30,000 check walk out the door.
Agreed. And the person who's sending the resume has to make it easier for us than often they do. And you've made a great point that I want to zero in on. You said sometimes your eye just catches something that piques your interest, and you kind of focus in on that. What sort of things pique your interest, Perry?
Well, sometimes I think, I think that the key is it's always that first third of the resume. It could be that branding statement where you say to yourself, okay, this is the way the person thinks about themselves. I like that. It could be the profile statement where the person's coming across and telling me, okay, these are my bottom line contributions. This is what I can do to make money for your company. If you're in a sales and marketing...
You've used 2 terms I need to have you define. The branding statement versus the profile statement. Could you define each of those?
Yeah. I think what will happen is, let's say that when you're writing the resume, what you can do is, you could put in the title of the position that you're holding right now, but realistically what you want to do is to put in the title of the position you're looking to go into. And then underneath there, you'll put in just a little small statement that will tell the person. Sometimes it could be 10 years of experience delivering quality service. Okay, sometimes it could be something a little bit more catchy. So that's really your branding statement, which says, okay, this is my name. My name is Perry Newman. I'm an executive resume writer, and I deliver results where my clients have got an increase of up to 80% of send out to return calls from employers. That's what people are looking for. So, okay, great. Then your profile statement is basically maybe 1, 2, 3 bullet points that kind of condense who you are and what are your bottom line contributions that you can make to the next company.
So when you're speaking of bottom line contributions, are you speaking about metrics from previous situations or something else?
It really depends. I think certain times it could be metrics. Certain times it could be character traits. Certain times it could be experience. I think this goes into understanding what the company is looking for as their most valued attribute from you. What I do find, unfortunately, and this has been something that's been very negative in dealing with a lot of my clients on more senior levels, is that they become and they read blogs and they read books that say that it has to be metrics-oriented, metrics-oriented, metrics-oriented. But unfortunately, they're working for publicly traded companies and they put in information that's proprietary, and then they wonder why they're not being called because people can't trust this guy. He's giving out information he shouldn't be giving out. So this is also something that's very, very important, especially for more senior level people, people in sales, people where metrics is a very, very important characteristic of their job, to kind of not give out specific numbers, but to know when to be specific and when to give out more general type of information.
Could you give out percentages instead of hard numbers? Such as
I think a lot of times you may want to do that. You know, although people might say that it's not right, but the person who's reading it, if the person who's reading it has an understanding of who you are, that they'll respect that. And there are a lot of people, I know a lot of resume writers that have people have come to me when I tell them to take these numbers out. They say, no, the guy who wrote the resume for me before, he said, you have to throw them in. And I said, yeah, that's very, very good. But then you may get a lawsuit next week. Or people are going to look at you and say, well, you don't have that proprietary ability to keep confidential information. So it is, you know, for certain people, it could be very, very tricky.
I'm glad you raised that as a subject because an earlier show with a guest named Hal Klugman, he spoke specifically about metrics as being the key benchmark and didn't mention this. And I think that's a good thing to caution people about who are in veteran roles or C-level positions at publicly traded firms. Good catch, Perry.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And what else might go into that eye-catching moment when you're looking at a resume? What other sorts of things might attract someone's eye?
Well, I think myself, I have several types of brands of resumes. So for certain people, what I've done is in the first third, what I've looked at is the type of character traits that are most important. So the first one might be, let's say, performance. And I would say, you know, award-winning salesperson, won President's Club 4 years running, you know, achieved goals, overachieved by 140% of quota from 2002 to present. And then to write a little blurb about team leadership, to have another little box that's going to speak about technical skills, another little box that's going to speak about team building, and to kind of break down so that the person can see, okay, he understands these are the 6 most important qualities of the job, and this is really how he approaches them. This is what he's been able to accomplish in each of these particular roles where he wears a different hat. And, you know, so I think that that's one of the ways that I've done it for more senior type of people, and a lot of times quite often with people in sales, business development type of situations.
What about for the non-leader, the non-management personnel who are what I nickname the doer class, the people who report to those individuals versus the top management? What might they do instead?
Well, I think they're the ones who really could be more metrics-oriented. I think for them it's important to really delve into the job that they've had, show either a career progression, that they've moved up in the position, or just pick out 1 or 2 things that exhibit how well they've done what they've done. And everybody has that. I think, it's the old car experiment of, what are the challenges you faced, the actions you've had, the results of your work. And I think that that's really what people in those areas want to do. You want to establish a track record of success in everything that you've done, because the key is that, success follows success. Certain people, tend to rise to their highest level of mediocrity on a pretty consistent basis. Others tend to exceed that on a consistent basis. What you want to try and do is show people that you can rise above the bar.
And that's true for people, as junior as interns. Interns in an organization, when you're writing your first resume for a full-time position, can use that same formula: challenges, achievements, results, or challenges, actions, results, in order to demonstrate that they're different than their peers and to stand out from the peers when they submit a resume.
Exactly.
So, any final thoughts, any parting suggestions you might have for the audience about things that they might be able to do to have a great resume?
Well, I think there's two things that people need to do. The first, I think, is to adapt the right mindset. When writing a resume, if you go into the process with the mindset of the person sitting in front of the desk, being asked the questions, and looking for ways to react to those questions, you're pretty much behind the eight ball. What you really want to do is you want to get into the head and the mindset of the recruiter, the decision maker, the president, the person who is asking the question, and say, what's important to them? What do they want? What kind of questions are they going to be asking me? And if you can understand what is important to them, what goes on within their head, then you have a much better chance of writing the resume. As I said, when I started, it's less about you and who you are, and it's all about who they want to buy. And so that will allow you to make the kind of differentiation and changes between the same resume that's sent to 3 different companies, either for the same job or something slightly different, without having to rewrite your resume totally. The second thing I think that people really need to do, and I think I alluded to this with you a few moments ago, is that you need to have somebody else look at the resume before you send it out. You need to get an objective eye. You and I have known each other for 12 years, and over time, I've come to you and said, Jeff, I'm not 100% sure. Look at this. Give me critical feedback. And boy, have you given me critical feedback. But that's the best way that I've learned my trade, because I've taken certain things that you've said and other people I do the same thing, and I incorporate them into what I do, because I learn from people and say, well, this is how I would look at it, but Jeff, wow, he looked at it totally differently than I did. So I think that that's something that's important for people, is get as much feedback from different people as you can to make sure you're on the right track.
That's a great tip, Perry. And just to take something that someone else said on an earlier show, I think it was Ellis Chase, as a matter of fact, you don't want to just take feedback from one person. You want to get feedback from a couple of people and look for trends in the feedback or trends in the opinion. So that this way, if one person gives the advice, it may not be accurate. But if you ask 4 people and 3 of them say the same thing, then you've got a trend there, and it's definitely right. So, great advice you just gave there, Perry. Thank you. So, I understand you have an offering for the listeners for this week. Could you tell folks about it?
Well, I would be happy to help anybody listening here if they would want to have a critique of their resume and LinkedIn page, get an idea of if it is up to par or exactly where changes might be needed. They can email it to me at perry@perrynewman.com.
Could you spell Newman in there? I just want to, because there are multiple spellings for Newman.
And Perry@PerryNewman, perrynewman.com. You can look me up at Perry Newman CPC on LinkedIn to find out a little bit more about me. And if you the best part about it is it's not a generic email critique that you're going to get, but I'll actually pick up the phone, call people, and spend up to an hour with them going over their resume, telling them what it is that they need to change, giving them suggestions, and, developing a relationship with them. And there's no charge or no obligation. If they want to hire me, they will get a Jeff Altman discount.
Thank you. It's a great gift that you're giving people, Perry. I'm sure they'll appreciate it. Knowing you like I do, I know you put time and effort into these things. So thank you. I appreciate you being on, and I appreciate you giving everyone such an offer.
So that's today's show. I hope you found it helpful. And if you did, here are a few ways to get even more from me. First of all, visit my website, www.thebiggamehunter.us. I have several thousand blog posts there that you can watch, listen to, or read to help you find your next job. If you want the best of my advice, join JobSearchCoachingHQ.com, where I've curated my information with a focus on interviewing. If you have a few questions, contact me through the Magnify app for iOS. That's Magnify with an I at the end, or PrestoExperts.com, where you can call me. Schedule a specific time with me through chat on Magnify or by connecting with me on LinkedIn at linkedin.com/IN/The Big Game Hunter. Once we're connected on LinkedIn, you can message me about coaching you, speaking with me about a resume or LinkedIn profile critique, help with a salary negotiation, my trusted advisor services, as well as scheduling me for Magnify or for PrestoExperts.com. Like you, I don't work for free. You can also take my classes on Skillshare and become a premium member using the link in the show notes and receive 2 months for free instead of just the one that the site offers. Skillshare offers thousands of courses, not just simply mine. It is a great resource in a variety of different areas. Subscribe to my other podcast, which is called Job Search Radio. This one is #1 in Apple Podcasts. Job Search Radio is #2. Subscribe to both. You will get great information 7 days a week from this show, 6 days a week from the other. Lastly, I want to encourage you to join my group on Facebook called Career Angles. It's free to the first 500 people who join and is focused on helping you do better at work. Information is shared daily, and we're building a supportive group there to provide advice and counsel during difficult times. Again, the group on Facebook is called Career Angles. I'll be back tomorrow with more. In the meantime, have a great day. Be great!
Calling all podcasters, musicians, vloggers, and reporters, and everyone else who wants crystal clear recording that's super portable. The Shure Motive family of microphones makes studio quality audio that's as simple as plug and play. Many of the world's top podcasters rely on Shure, and with a Motive line of iOS and USB microphones, portability is now your friend. Imagine being able to get great audio quickly and easily from your phone, tablet, or computer. Simply visit shure.com/motive to start getting great audio for your content now. That's SHURE.com/MOTIV.
Hi, I'm Taraji P. Henson. In my new movie, What Men Want, I can hear men's thoughts. You better think.
On February 8th.
How did this happen?
The psychic gave me this tea.
I thought black people stopped drinking tea after Get Out.
Taraji P. Henson, Aldous Hodge, Erykah Badu, Tracy Morgan.
If you only knew what I was thinking right now.
Trust me, we don't want to know.
What Men Want. Rated R. Under 17, not admitted without parent. In theaters February 8th.